Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about the OGL and what Hasbro is doing with the OGL, in my humble opinion. All right, so actually, it's really fascinating. I really feel like what we just hit was the 2022 Winter D&D Firestorm, and there were people who got upset, right? So basically, people who, D&D commentators and D&D creators, right? So D&D OGL creators, D&D commentators, and D&D OGL creators did a lot of discussion of what was what was happening with Dungeons and Dragons right now, right? And so there's three things: Cynthia Williams' statement that D&D was under monetized, huge speculation that the OGL would end, right? And one D&D survey hitting stride, right? And a lot of hey, we put out multiple surveys at this point. You guys see the structure of this, and people just upset with the survey, not getting what they want from the survey, not expecting they're going to get the output they want from the survey. All these different topics, right? So one thing that really shocked me, right, was there was a ton of speculation about the OGL, right? And a lot of people say that, like, oh, and there were multiple channels. Bob Builder talked about it. He talked about massive speculation that was happening about the OGL. And he said it like, oh, speculation, right? And one of the things I think that really surprises me is I think people think, oh, here's what's happening in the world. And they get these, little cute ideas in their head, but our world is so complicated and so inverted from actual logic that if you don't really think hard, and if you don't keep skipping rope when you're thinking, you ain't gonna get it, right? And so a lot of times people are like, oh, speculation, what's the point of speculation? All that speculation totally resulted in good data, right? So speculation turned out to be extremely useful, right? Because one, I think the speculation prompted Hasbro to respond and give a very hard, this is what we're gonna to give a much harder answer, like a more concrete answer on what they were going to do with the SR. And they actually gave some very specific answers. There's still some questions out there, but they closed a lot of questions and a lot of loopholes, and they closed a lot of speculation by responding to the speculation, and they did it pretty quick, right? So, a lot of people are like, oh, what's the value of speculation? Well, it can get answers really, really quickly. And not just like some answers, but like a lot of answers. I was really shocked with how productive it really seemed that that speculation turned out to be, right? So correct me if I'm wrong. Like, if you think, no, Scott, speculation is never valuable, I think you need to look at what just happened. Like, it seemed pretty valuable. Like, it really, like the speculation was essentially rewarded, and so I thought that was really, really fascinating, because like a lot of times people are like, oh, speculation is so terrible. It seemed like it really produced a quick good result very fast, right? Tell me if my analysis on that is wrong. I'd love to hear your take, right? So here we go. So one, Bob Worldbuilder did a fantastic video on this, and you should check out his work. I think he did the best. I listened to multiple videos on the OGL. Some were very timely and came out right away, right? And that's kind of my favorite, is when a video is. I actually prefer timely to accurate, right? Like, if you got a better video 3 days later, it ain't even a guarantee anybody won't even see it, right? But Bob Worldbuilder, he waited, and I think his was a little later than it should have been, but it was very good. It was excellent coverage, right? So here we go. So where do we land with this, right? It is so let's answer a few questions that the community has been asking. Is the OGL going to die, right? Now, I think the easy answer, and the answer that a lot of people have been saying, that some D&D commentators have been saying, is no, the OGL isn't going anywhere, right? And I think technically, on the word level, that's correct, but functionally, it's wrong. I think the OGL is definitely. So let me. I don't want to be too. I don't want to go overshoot the mark. The OGL isn't going to die, but is absolutely going to be throttled. In fact, I think the open gaming license, with the announcement of what Hasbro just announced for the OGL, right? What really is happening there is the throttle gaming license. They're going to throttle that thing hard. They're going to hard throttle the open game license. And so basically the open game license will be there, but you're going to have to put on your big girl pants. You're going to have to be like a for realsies business, right? And yeah, and that's the issue. Like, I think only top tier, very organized business. If you got this, garage creator energy, you're going to have a hard time on 1.1, right? And then I think there are a lot of creators out there, a lot of D&D commentators out there who are saying, well, here's the thing. 1.0 is still ready for you. You can still use it, right? Technically, 100% yes. Functionally, no, right? And the reason why is people are like, oh, you using that dusty, crusty old 1.0? Why are you even bothering with that? Why don't you just make your own game, right? And that's another thing is, one thing that I'm a little confused on, right, and please correct me, if you think you have an answer to this, is there's a lot of people who are creating OGL content are clearly outrageously frustrated with D&D. Do what Index Card RPG did, right? Index Card RPG has a Index Card RPG is 3 centimeters to the left of Dungeons and Dragons, maybe 3 centimeters to the right of Dungeons and Dragons, and it don't use the OGL. It don't need the OGL, and it functions. It literally uses the same attributes, right? Just like if you're upset with D&D, go stand up your own shop, right? And make your own game. And I think functionally what's going to happen is people, once the 1.1 drops, real companies, and there's about 20, maybe 50 of them in the world, are going to put out they're going to hustle. They're going to pour blood, sweat, and tears into those products. And then those are going to come out, and people are going to go, oh, this is a real OGL product, right? And all that garage creator energy is just going to evaporate. And yes, you'll have these 1.0, right? But they ain't going to get no sales. They ain't going to get no attention. It's going to be like very low key, right? So, and the point, like, why did you even bother, right? Like, and actually, I want to be clear. I know why a lot of people bother. One of the things, that's another thing. People are like, oh, this is about livelihood. And this is just my take, right? I'm ready to hear your take. This ain't about livelihood. Anybody who's smart enough to make a tabletop role-playing game can go make money, far more money, in almost any industry, right? This is about people like saying, hey, I want my livelihood to be fun. I don't know if the D&D community needs to support that, right? Like, I know you would like to make sure that your livelihood is fun, but I'm not sure the D&D community needs to make sure that happens, right? And ain't nobody taking food out of your mouth right now. Getting a job is like falling off a log, right? Like, so like, just go do something else, or like, so and I think that's my take. That's my take. So so here's the big news. In Scott Garibay's humble opinion, here's what's happening. Open gaming license is definitely, it's not going to die, but it's about to get throttled, absolutely throttled. I think it's already happened. I think that 1.1 will cause a chilling effect that will throttle the open gaming license. Does that make me upset? Absolutely not. Here's why. I don't touch DM Guild's content, right? I don't touch almost any. I don't need any OGL content, right? The reality is, I'm not kidding. Holy cows, I have libraries. You got libraries, right? I have a prime library downstairs. It's 2 bookshelves and then books stacked on top of them, right? And I try to keep my core Dungeons & Dragons content on there, right? And it's overflowing, right? And that's just official content, right? I can no longer even fit the actual stuff I want to run for D&D, for official D&D. Not OGL garage creator energy stuff. I'm talking realsies, right? Like realsy stuff, right? I can't even fit that all on my bookshelf anymore. It's that voluminous, right? And like I've got Beckme boxes. I don't have all of Beckme. I got basic and expert. I'd love to get the rest, man, but they ain't easy to get nowadays. And I got like 30. I think I have 30 to 35 D&D books on that shelf that are just 5th edition, right? And then I have my Orange Spine Easleys, and it's packed, right? And I can't even get all of this to my table. right? I need OGL content like I need another hole in my head. And I think that's the rest of the D&D community. Nobody needs any more OGL, right? And then also, one other thing I wanted to say is I really don't stand like OGL anymore. I don't think it's needed. I don't think anybody needs it. I don't think we need the DMs Guild, right? So if any of it goes away, ain't no sweat off my back, right? I can barely run the official good stuff that Hasbro is actually creating, right? And I'll tell you right now, in my opinion, nothing on DM Guild is even remotely close to official content as far as quality, not in art, layout, or writing, okay? Now, if you want to put in the comments below and point me to stuff that's better, I'd love to hear and see what you think is better, but, I just don't think it. But I will say there was a time where I was very down with the OGL. And I will also want to say thank you for when the OGL was useful. When we went from 2E to 3E, the OGL transformed Dungeons & Dragons forever, right? And the reality is, Dungeons & Dragons has been under assault many times, right? The 1980s, we all talk about it. Satanic Panic. The game could have disappeared, right? 4E, right? Pathfinder stepped up. D&D could have, if Hasbro had bobbled the ball and not handled that well, they could have, D&D could have been crushed under the boot of Pathfinder. That didn't happen, right? And nowadays, I think the failure of Pathfinder 2E is kind of that's the fate of Pathfinder. And that's another thing is, and that, I guess I also answered my question there. It's why don't people go make their own game? Well, no, that one is made with the OGL, so that's not a good example. But yeah, I'm back where I was. So Dancy and Dungeons & Dragons. Ryan Dancy brought forward the OGL for 3rd edition, and at that point, Dungeons & Dragons was under assault right then. You know what? From video games. Oh my gosh, was Dungeons & Dragons under assault? Better movies, better shows, and video games were just coming up, and people were just pouring themselves into video games. I saw marriages. At that time, 2000, 1999 is when Hasbro got it, and when 3rd edition came out. Maybe between 1999 and 2000, I saw marriages ended because I saw dudes creating 80th level Warhammer characters and pouring $1,000 into Civilization and and I can't and legit it was hard to find a table because people were you want me to put this joystick down for 5 minutes? I ain't doing it. And the OGL really helped and was really useful then. So OGL creators, I do thank you for saving Dungeons & Dragons in the early 2000s, but frankly, I don't think anybody needs OGL anything right now, right? So I'm more than happy to see Throttle GL come out, and that's what I think it is. We have the TGL now. Used to be Open Gaming License. I want 1.1. That's Throttle Gaming License. And one last thing on this, and believe it or not, I kind of support Throttle Gaming License, right? And the reason why they're doing this, so somebody gave me some corrected numbers, right? So So those who stand against D&D were mocking D&D with these numbers. They were or actually not even mocking, just kind of calling this out and kind of going in different directions with it, right? And but here was the number. They were in 2021, Hasbro made $1 billion, right? And all the Indie and OSR Kickstarters made $10 million, right? So why would Hasbro even take the time to squeeze down the Open Gaming License? Why not just let them do their thing, right? Well, it's not about the money, right? Oh, and I just wanted to correct these numbers, right? So I said, and I think a lot of people said, the demand for D&D is literally 100 times. $1 billion is 100 times more than 10 million. That's not correct, though. It was 1.3 billion that Hasbro made. And this came directly from one of my commenters, and these were the correct numbers: 1.3 billion, and so it was 1.3 billion, right? Which means it'd be 130. It's 130 times, right? The number, but we don't know how much of that is D&D. I think 25% of that is D&D, right? So that means three. So D&D is 30 times larger. 30 times, not 100. 30 times. That's a good approximation. 30 times larger than all the OSR and all the indie combined. I think that those are real numbers. They really are actually helpful, right? And I think the accurate statement is that Dungeons & Dragons right now is 30 times larger than the OSR and indie combined, right? So then the question comes back: why is Hasbro even bothering to come back and do this, right? And I think the reason why is, and what, by the way, when I say Garage Creator Energy, like they're making the product uh, on their computer, but they literally store it in their garage. Like, you know, it's not, these are, OGL creators are generally not real businesses. We know for a fact, because of what Hasbro just announced on 1.1, that there are 20 that definitely put their big girl pants on and are very real businesses and make over 750,000 a year. There's about 20 of them in the world. Cobble Press is probably one of them. Probably Colville's MCDM, and yeah, MCDM, and who else would be in there? Maybe Green Ronin. You know, like a few of them, right? You know, so a few others, right? So so why would they do this, right? It's not about the money. Like, if you're making 30 times as much, you ain't trying to go. If you're making 300 million, right, which I think is what they're probably making, and we can, you know, dicker about the number there, but it ain't gonna go up or down that much. And I think, you know, 25% is pretty accurate. So why would you go get that, right? Why would you worry about that 10 million? It's about the brand. It is about the brand. It is about the brand. D&D is like no brand in the world, and they've said it flat out. They're like, hey, Harley Davidson ain't nothing but a thing, right? Like, you think riding around on a two-wheeled machine can redefine your identity? We can literally redefine your identity. You'll have 30 of them, or if you're a dungeon master, you'll have 1,000 of them, right? Like, you know, like, you think a leather jacket with a patch on your back is impressive? Try making worlds. We're like, you know, like, and you know, and I get it. I'm in on the life brand. Like, it is a huge part of my life, right? And that's another thing, is those who stand against Dungeons and Dragons talk a lot about, ooh, life brand. Yeah, like, yeah, we want Dungeons and Dragons to be a life brand. I don't know why that's a mockable point. It's like, yes, yeah, we all get to choose what's part of our identity. D&D is part of my identity, right? Like, and so that's what I think. OGL is going to turn to TGL. Open game license is going to turn to throttle game license. Am I wrong? Am I right? I'm super eager to hear. All that is my humble opinion. I'm super eager to hear your humble opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.